Hey there, folks. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Oral Reports. You know, Disney has a beloved legacy of adapting many classic fairy tales, with legendary movies like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty, the Renaissance movies like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, and modern smash hits like Tangled and Frozen. However, there is one fairy tale that I want to talk about that I think Disney should do their own take on soon. Has anyone ever heard of the Wild Swans? Well, for those who don't know, the Wild Swans is a literary fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen about a young princess who tries to rescue her brothers from a wicked spell cast by an evil witch. To do so, she must sew 6 garments made from stinging nettles, and she mustn't speak in the process. The story was first published on October 2nd, 1838, as the first installment in Andersen's fairy tales told by children by C.A. Riesel in Copenhagen, Denmark. It has been adapted into various media, including a ballet, television, and film. In fact, I was first introduced to the story in late 2009 while watching the Grimm's Fairy Tale Classics series on YouTube. But during 2010, I came across a Japanese animated version from the late 70s, which is what I'll be looking at today. So, released in Japan on March 19th, 1977, the movie is The Wild Swans. Now let's get started. When a king gets lost during a hunting trip, he is found by an old woman who tells him that her daughter Greta will be able to show him the way out of the woods if he satisfies her wishes. The king finds the woman to be remarkably beautiful, and he agrees to her request of marrying him. However, the king has 7 children, and the new queen becomes jealous, as he often leaves to visit them at their secret home in the woods. With the help of a magical ball of yarn, the new queen is led to a hidden treehouse where the king's daughter Eliza and his 6 sons live. They are excited about meeting their new stepmother and run to greet her, but as soon as they get close, Greta throws white sheets over them, turning them into swans. Thankfully, Eliza manages to escape. Now that they've been turned into swans, Eliza can only see her brothers at night, when the enchantment breaks, and when spring comes, they'll have to migrate to colder climates. Before leaving, they tell Eliza of the only way she alone could break the spell. She would have to collect nettles and spin it into thread with which to make 6 shirts, one for each of her brothers for 6 years. During this time, Eliza would have to remain silent, for if she were to speak a single word or complain, they will die instantly. So, what do I personally think of this version? Well, to me, this is a really emotional, enchanting, and underrated story. And to further explain why I love this version, let's move on to Mustang notes. Now, the movie was animated by Toei Animation, best known for producing Voltron, Muppet Babies, Sailor Moon, and many classic 80s cartoon shows. They also adapted the 1980s version of Swan Lake. Also, this movie is not only based on the Hans Christian Andersen version, but it also has some concepts from the Brothers Grimm version. The English dub was produced in 1983 in New York, and it was distributed by Turner Program Services. In my opinion, the Japanese animation is simply breathtaking, and like Sanrio, it kind of feels reminiscent to Western animation. Plus, I just love the scenery in the woods, and I think the wintry environment is absolutely beautiful in several scenes. Speaking of which, I love the scene where Eliza is being looked after by several forest animals while she sews the first 5 garments. And I like the scene where she spends the winter with her brothers before they migrate. Also, there is a scene where we see several people falling ill from poisoned water, which, in my opinion, is the darkest part of the movie, especially when Eliza is falsely accused of witchcraft. Also, I think the musical score can be very peaceful, emotional, and haunting at times. Plus, I think one piece of the score kind of sounds like a song that I've known from elementary school choir 20 years ago, which was the Jamaican Noel. Also to note, there are 2 songs featured in the movie, both sung by Eliza, one time while she's searching for her brothers, and the other where she's gathering nettles and sewing them into yarn. And now, let's move on to the film's characters. Let's start with Princess Eliza, voiced by Corinne Orr, who voiced Princess Margaret in Jack and the Beanstalk, and she also got to be in the Speed Racer anime series. After Eliza's brothers are cursed to be swans, she's determined to reunite and later save them from her stepmother's evil spell, no matter what the cost. Also, in my opinion, I thought it was very brave of her when she vowed to never use her voice or complain until the spell is broken. Also, during the 6 years, Eliza grows up into a beautiful maiden. And at the end of the movie, I like that Eliza was merciful when she convinced her fiancé to expel Greta and her mother from the kingdom. Next we have Eliza's 6 brothers. Now, even though they don't have a lot of screen time, I think they share a very close sibling relationship with Eliza. And I like the flashback scene where we see Eliza and her brothers playing near the forest treehouse. Also, I liked when they gave Eliza some new clothes and some beautiful boots. Next are these tear dwarves. To me, while they do have the smallest role in the movie, I think they're decent minor supporting characters whenever Eliza is feeling sad. Plus, I like that they give Eliza courage and confidence. Next we come to the 2 villains, Greta and her mother. Greta is a greedy, selfish, and an envious young woman. In the beginning of the film, she marries Eliza's father, and she turns his sons into swans. But, thankfully, after the king somehow finds out, he throws Greta out of his kingdom. Her mother is a devious and manipulative old woman who serves more of a villainous role during the second half of the movie. Sure, she did convince the king to marry Greta. However, way later in the movie, she causes an epidemic by poisoning the water, and she frames Eliza for being a witch. But by far, her most evil act is when she pricks Eliza's feet during the trial scene. Another character to talk about is the young king. Not long after Eliza finishes the 5th garment, the king and his hunting crew find Eliza and they take her to his castle. In my eyes, I thought he was a kind and hospitable man, and I liked when Eliza accepted his proposal. However, he did become broken-hearted when he learns that Eliza is guilty of witchcraft and will be burned at the stake. But after Eliza's brothers are saved from their swan curses, he figures that what Eliza has done was actually an act of love. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, The 1977 Wild Swans is a beautiful movie. The animation by Toei is gorgeous. The musical score is emotional and dark at times. The main character, Eliza, is a strong-hearted princess. Her brothers share a close sibling bond with her, and the villains are very devious and manipulative. However, while some may complain about a few scenes feeling kind of slow, to me, for this movie, it's not so much of a big deal. And I think this is a very underrated adaptation, and while it hasn't gotten a DVD release yet, at least the only place you can watch it these days is on YouTube. Also, if Walt Disney Animation is watching this video, I hope you guys make your own animated version of this Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale soon. I'm rooting for you, Disney. I'm rooting for you. As for my rating, I'll give this version a full 100%. Well, folks, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for a very special countdown video, which will focus on 10 magical, enchanting, and adventurous movies starring Princess Odette. Mustang Power!